team started in 2013, and it kind of evolved after we had an internal audit which found some improvement in pre-release cases. So we have 3 reentry teams in our district. We have Phoenix, Tucson, and we have a new team in Flagstaff. Our reentry teams include 6 officers, 3 supervisors. We cover the state of Arizona to include 22 tribes and 4 halfway houses. Our reentry officers are assigned to system-involved individuals who are within 120 days of releasing from the Bureau of Prisons and are set to begin their terms of supervision. And so they're either going to release from a residential reentry center in Arizona or directly from the institution. The typical duties of a reentry officer in our district, for individuals that are releasing from the institution, the reentry officer will make contact with the BOP case manager to assess the release plan and develop alternative plans should they not have a release plan to avoid homelessness. For individuals releasing from the halfway house, reentry officers will meet with the individual within 10 days of their arrival to introduce themselves, clarify the rules, assist them in identifying goals that they would like to work on and achieve during the reentry process, and also identify barriers so that we can have a smooth transition back into the community. We also attend weekly program meetings with the RRC and BOP staff. We assess release plans, modify conditions, administer assessment tools, and help people, have an awareness of some of the risk factors they may be facing during their return. So our goal with the reentry team is to really work closely with the RRCs, the BOP case managers, the residents, and definitely the community partners to provide a smooth transition back into the community to hopefully eliminate the barriers. During this reentry process, they're actually not on supervision with us. And so our goal is to work with the Bureau of Prisons, the halfway houses as they finish their sentences, and hopefully, identify areas that need to be addressed when they start supervision. So the reentry officer is going to have a case plan, a transfer summary that the officer that will supervise the person for the long term can have, kind of a plan for the future. Since we've had our reentry team, we've seen a lot of successes. Personally, I've seen them. We've seen a decline in the number of people that were absconding or not reporting after release. We've seen a decrease in the use of emergency housing funds because we try to look at what that transition plan is going to be, and if there is an issue, trying to address that with community partners, with the halfway house prior to their release. We've also seen improved relationships between U.S. Probation, the Bureau of Prisons, and also the halfway house staff. We work very closely together, and also building strong relationships with an incredible community partners that we have here in Tucson. Additionally, with the pandemic, it's created new barriers. And, I really believe that reentry work is as important as ever, as we address these new concerns. And, just moving forward, we continue to audit our progress, reassess the reentry process, and really look for new ways to narrow the gap.
That's wonderful.
Thank you, Nan.
Did you have more to add? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, that's okay. The only thing I would add, not only with our reentry team, all of our probation officers and pretrial officers play a role in the reentry process. Some examples of that, even at the beginning of the court process, we have a program called the STEPS program, which is a collaboration with the bench, pretrial, and also the Bureau of Prisons, where system-involved individuals and their families are invited to the court, where we discuss the court process, every step of the way, from the pre-sentence portion of it to the Bureau of Prisons, and then back into the community to answer questions for people. We've also created What Happens Now events that we host in the community quarterly, along with the halfway houses, Bureau of Prisons, and the U.S. Attorney's Office, and community partners to kind of bring community resources together for those returning back into the community. We have probation officers that have helped start and run a clothing bank at our probation office. That's very helpful for people that need emergency clothing, that may have just arrived at the halfway house, that don't have clothing. We also host monthly skill groups that's facilitated by a probation officer, where they pick just one time, one skill group discussion, where the person who attends can have those skills immediately to use. We're also fortunate in our district as well to have specialized supervision teams in Arizona who are assigned to the various nations and have developed strong relationships with the various tribal stakeholders, and really have been an excellent source of collaboration for our reentry team members working with Native Americans. So we're appreciative of that. Overall, it's just been very rewarding to be a reentry probation officer, collaborating with others in the community and the stakeholders as well. But I really want to thank you for letting us be a part of this, and also very interested in hearing the other panel members' experiences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Keith. I'd also like to let you know that in the handouts section, if you look up there, we do have 2 handouts, and one of those is actually the information that Keith had about his program, and so you're more than welcome to download those as you can. The other handout is actually regarding the membership drive that we had as a webinar yesterday. So I know some of you were not able to join us for that, but we did a webinar for membership drive that we're providing a discount for the APPA membership. And so there's information on that. So you can download that information as well. And then we're having some questions coming up. And so you can also get to that. I think Pam and Travis are going to be posting those in a little while. And so we will move on as they're preparing those questions with panelist 1. They're just going to, panelist 1 is just going to kind of give a small introduction of themselves, and then we'll go on to panelist 2, and they will do the same thing. Then after that, we'll talk about pose some questions, and then open it up for a general discussion as we move on from here. So panelist 1, you want to go ahead and give a little introduction about yourself?
Hi, my name is Arden. I'm a member of the Ute tribe. I lived on and off the reservation, school, and pretty much the beginning of my life. So I experienced both sides, on and off the reservation, all kinds of stuff I've been exposed to up there. I don't even know where to begin. What would you guys like to hear about? I mean, in particular, I was incarcerated early time in my life, was during my teenage years, and proceeded into my adulthood. And as I got adulthood, it just got, escalated into, worse and worse. And finally, I ended up in the Colorado Department of Corrections, and I did just almost 2 years for assault. in Colorado. And, just getting out was pretty tough, getting a job. I couldn't get a basic job. I couldn't even get a dishwashing job. And coming back in, it was hard. It was, it just made me want to give up. Like there was no hope for me out here. On why I come out when I can't even do anything or nobody wants me in society. And, a lot of times I just felt like giving up and just go back. And, I guess fit in where I'm at. I don't know. I guess this is how society sees us as we come out. But going back in was different. I felt like you going back in felt like you belonged here and you felt among your own kind. I think that's why a lot of people go back because they feel comfortable. They're welcome. They know the routine. Coming out here is different. You struggle. It's harder. Getting it off. You've got all this stuff to do, this list of things to do. And, sometimes you don't even have a car to get there. But I don't know. Is there any questions?
Okay.
No?
Well, thank you, Arvin. Let's go to panelist 2, and they can give their small introduction, and then we'll start going into some of the questions. Okay. Panelist 2, do you want to give a small introduction about yourself?
Hi, my name's Yvonne. I'm from the Tohono O'odham tribe. I'm a mother of 4. I was a single mother, and I got into all these stuff that wasn't right, and I ended up going in, getting incarcerated. But this last time I went in, I wanted to change for myself. And so right now, that's what I'm doing, working on myself and doing things different. But I just wanted to put a stop for my family, for my grandkids. I didn't want them to go through the same situation I put them through. So I know that in life there's time you have to stop these things and do a change for yourself and your family. And that's what I'm doing now. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, panelist 2. Okay, we have some questions coming up, and if you're unsure where to find those questions, if you would look up on the thing where it says Q&A, you'll see the Q&A, but also where it says published next to it, you'll see where those questions are coming up. And so you can see the questions. The first question was from Elaine. It says, our res works with state facilities, wondering if any others working with state had their tribal members denied release back to res. And then another question was from Travis, how have fines and fees inhibited your ability to successfully re-enter back into the community? And so those are 2 questions that we'll probably maybe answer as we're going along, that we can come back to as well. Okay. And then some other questions that are coming up for Arvin. What supports do you think you need to remain in your community? And also the same thing for Yvonne. So what supports do you think you need to remain in your community? What kinds of things do you think that would be helpful for you, that help you remain in your community? That's for either you, Arvin, or Yvonne.
What really helped me was well, at the time, I got into a relationship, and I foreseen where I kind of wanted to see where I was going, and then I found out I was going to have a son, a child. So that really brought me around. I wanted to be there for my child. I wanted to be there. My family was there, so I wanted to be that figure for my child, and that really pushed me to go in the right direction. I've been to rehabs, I've been to jail, I've been, work camps and everything, and they never helped me. I was just there doing it. But what pushed me and helped me in my community was that, and to stop drinking cold turkey, and just put everything aside and put my willpower to use my power to say no more and what I wanted. But I wanted in the future for my family. That's what really pushed me to be in society, look for a job. And that was the hard part for me. Staying busy, I guess, was the main thing. Me also staying busy and anything activities, staying active.
So it sounds like having your child and also being busy, staying occupied, seem to be important factors for you.
Yes.
Okay. What about you, Yvonne?
What was the question?
The question was, what are some of the things that for you? Let me see. Let me go back to the question. What were some of the things for both of you that seemed to make you stable in the community, that kept you in the community? What are some things that were supportive for you, that kept you tied to your community?
For me, it was trying to get help for myself. I got myself into counseling and just getting into AA and NA meetings because I was an alcoholic and I am an alcoholic and an addict. So I knew I needed help. But when I was incarcerated, I changed my life over and I accepted God into my life. So really, I based my life on faith and hope, and that's what gets me by each day because I have that faith, and plus I have a lot of support. I have a really good support system. I have to say that I thank my probation and Keith also, and also I'm into this. I got into a program called GARP, and they've really been supportive. And I go over there, and I guess it's kind of like I had to learn to start reaching out to people. And when something happens, I have to vent a lot. So when I do that, I feel comfortable, and I seem to learn something and realize what the problem's all about. But a lot of it is just reaching out to people and getting help and seeking for that help. You can't just give up because that's a lot of, I know a lot of our people, Native Americans, have gone through a lot, but we can't live in that past and hold on to all those hurts and everything. We have to learn to let it go. And that's something that I've done, is I let go of a lot of things that have happened in my life. And I realized that, a lot of it had to do with death because I lost a lot of people, because I've been in and out of incarceration, and I've lost a lot of family members. So I had to learn to deal with that. But, I've learned now, and I see things better, and I get into programs that I look around and I see, if I see something and I try to get into it because I know it's going to help me, it's going to benefit me. And I think that's a thing that a lot of people need to do, is that especially counseling. I think we all need counseling, and we all need to just seek out for that help, reach out there and get it. But it's a lot of footwork, but if you really wanted things to change in your life, you go after it and don't give up. Just always have that hope and dreams. I know people don't believe in dreams, but I believe in them because I feel, I'm not going to accomplish all those dreams, but if you have those dreams, you have something to look forward in life, and that's what I do now. But that's how I look at things in life now, and I feel that, people is letting go and trusting people, and that's something that I've learned a lot because I know people that come out of prison, we think that, we can't trust anyone, and there are people out here that care about us, and all they're trying to do is just help us make our life better than what it was before, but we have to meet them halfway, and I think that's what I've done a lot, was meet all the people that have come into my life halfway, and I have to say they've supported me a lot. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I guess one of the things that I would follow up with that, when you're talking about meeting people halfway or beginning to trust people, and also learning how to speak up and reaching out to people to ask them for help. All of those things that you're talking about, and you're very right that as Native people, those things are very, very hard for us to do, even without having ever been incarcerated, much less. And when you're incarcerated, that's even harder, I would think. So, and this is to both of you, what is it that allowed you to do that when you came out? There must have been something that said, somehow that it clicked for you. What was it? Was it somebody that you spoke to? Was it just you talked about your faith, you talked about your dreams? What was it? A resource? Was it a person? Was it I know Arvin talked about his family, that he had a child, but what else was there that made the difference for you to make that shift for yourself, to say, I have to speak up, I have to reach out, or I have to stop and rethink where I'm going?
Well, for myself, I did it because I'm a grandmother. I have 10 grandkids right now, and I had to really think about their lives because, I'm always telling my kids, when you have kids, it's not just your life anymore. You have to think of these other lives that you brought into this world. And I was kind of like eating my own words because I wasn't doing that. I didn't think about that when I had my kids, but I was saying it to them. But I realized that I needed to put a change for my grandkids because I don't want them to go through the same footsteps that I've been doing. I want them to go a different route. And I have a grandson that I'm very close to, and he was the one that I thought about this last time, and that's who made me want to change. And I feel that there had to be a stop and I grew up in a Christian family. My parents were Christians, and my mom taught to me a lot, and so that's what made me want to change. I guess I used to hear her talk, and I realized too that there wasn't, I went down this road so many times that it wasn't getting me anywhere, but just always put back in incarceration, and I didn't want to go there anymore. I wanted something better for myself, and that's why I got involved with church when I was in there, and I really liked some of the people that came in and they talked about God, and I guess that's what I had hanging, was just wanting to change for my mom and for my grandkids and for myself especially, because I knew if I kept going down that road, it wasn't going to get me anywhere, but I would probably end up in my grave. I mean, and that's something that I don't want to. I wanted to show that there is something more in life. And I guess when my mom passed away, I really, life is too short. And that's what I say, that you have to enjoy life no matter what you're going through, because it is too short. We can be here one day and be gone the next. And that's how I feel. So, but I have to say it was my grandkids that really made me want to change and reaching out to people. And, and I have to say right now, I love my life but I have to always reflect back on it too. A lot of times people say, don't look back at how your life was, but to me, I feel that you still have to reflect, because that reflection reminds you how far you come in life, and that's what I do all the time. Sometimes when I'm at home, I just sit there and I just thank God. I've come a long ways from where I've been. Thank you.
Thank you for that. What about you, Arvin?
Well, what really helped me to get back in was, um, I would say family. I wanted family. I wanted to earn my respect back from my family that I lost. And I really wanted them to know who I am. Not what I was, what I was doing. I wanted to respect that. Not only them, but in my community, my friends, and everyone. They just know me as this other person. I wanted to show that I am a different person. And I wanted to show my stepdaughter and my kids that who I am, what I really am about. And as when I got out, I'd done some stuff, but I didn't really look for resources. I was basically doing it on my own. Like I said, I stayed busy. I was looking for jobs, and what I wanted to do in the future. That was my resource, my drive to be successful, to do things. I waited a couple years, and I wanted to get back into my culture, our Native American ways. And I waited 10 years after been out of incarceration and got back into our Native American ways and started participating in some of the stuff that I've gone away from. I still participate in them today. It helps me push along. And I teach my son and my kids those traditional ways to this day. I don't know all of them, but I'm learning them as I go again, from being away for so long from it kind of hurt me, but it's helping me push along to this day. I'm not saying I'm ill, but I'm still pushing, going along for where I want to be for my kids and my grandkids. That was the way I did it. I just kind of basically did it on my own and just pushed along. I just wanted to be where I'm at. I knew I could do it. I put myself there and I can put myself out. That's what I did. To this day, good. I have my family, my grandkids, and my family. They all supported me, in some way or another. And today, I support them in whatever they're doing. I don't try to judge them. I just try to help them. Put myself in their shoes, because I'm pretty sure I've been there some way or another. That's what I tell all my friends or family that are having problems. I don't try to be perfect. I'm not perfect. I never was. I just try to be in their shoes because I've been there. That was the way I always thought. I can get back to some of my friends that are having trouble. If I can do it, anybody can do it. That's what I always thought.
Okay. Well, it sounds like for both of you that you really relied on your family as supports. And that seems to be something that I'm hearing from both of you, that in some way your family is the one that guided that that drive from within yourself to use that as a way to guide you back onto the path of being responsible and utilizing them as a guide for maintaining that road for yourself. And another good question that came up is asking, how long have you been released, and are you both still on supervision?
I have a year, and I'm going on 2 years. I'll be on, and then I have 1 more year to do. I thought I would get half time, but it's okay. I mean, I can. I mean, I understand a lot of things, but I feel that maybe I do still need that guidance, little guidance to help me and keep me in line. But I knew already when I was coming out of get released and to halfway house, and I did ask God, to help me and to guide me, and that within these 3 years that I'm on probation, that I can go back home and help my people. I mean, there's a lot of things I want to do, and so right now it doesn't bother me. It's just, to me, as long as I'm okay. I mean, and I don't have really any problems with my probation. They kind of just give me. I can just kind of be. I mean, I don't have to worry about, because I'm not doing nothing, and that's the only way you can do it. Is just just do what they ask, and it's not so hard. But so far, everything's been going good, and I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I've been out of incarceration for 21 years probably.
Wow.
And I was on 3 years mandatory parole. But what I'm doing now is, I didn't have a trade at the time, and I went to school, just a trade school, to learn basic carpentry. And I did 1 year of that, and I at the time, and now, as we have a company here, our tribe has a company, and I'm one of their foremen lead men on their job now. I run my own crews. I'm a carpenter. We build homes, etc. Everything. While I'm there now, I help my fellow tribal members out, and I teach them carpentry. What I learned, I pass it all down to them. And that's what I'm doing nowadays. I try to help them, teach my skill that I know onto them.
Okay.
And I do a lot of side jobs, weekend jobs, just to stay busy, and to keep my mind off things, just stay busy is what I basically do with my family. We do a lot of traveling, go back and visit my brother, and things like that. We do a lot of that. A lot of stuff. Yeah.
So it's good to see the two perspectives, because it sounds like, Yvonne, that you're just recently been released in comparison to Arvin, that you're just now in your third year and you're still on probation. And so, and Arvin's been out for 42, is that 42 years or 43 years? And now you have a trade, and you're working, and making your own living and everything. So, it's good to see the two very diverse perspectives of someone that's been released for a while, and someone that's just now still in the beginning stages of reentry. So thank you for that. And just to let the audience know that we know that the technology isn't always that clear, so we do realize that the sound is cutting out every so often, especially for Arvin. But it's just the technology. We can't. They're trying their best, and they're out in where they are at. The services are what they are, so they're trying their best. So thank you for being patient with us. One of the other things that that they've asked is, what do you guys wish were that you knew before you were released? If you, as you were getting to that point of getting released, what were some of the things that you wish you had known before you were released, looking back now? Because I know, Arvin, you said that you kind of did it on your own. And 42 years ago, for those of us that have been in the field for that long, the field has evolved a lot since then, 42 years ago, and it's quite different now. And I guess for you, Yvonne, it's not been that long, so I can imagine that your answers would be very different. So, what do you think that would be your answer to that? What do you think that you would have wanted to have known before you were released? What would have been important to you that would have been maybe of benefit to you? Anything? Maybe like, how to get some help, or maybe who your probation officer was, or I don't know. I know that from our end, as a first line worker, sometimes we don't even know that that you guys get released. I know that a lot of times you'll come into our offices and say, I'm here to report for provision. And our response is always, well, who are you, and where are you coming in from? Sometimes our communication with DOC is not always very clear. So I'm not sure what might have happened with you.
Yes, I'd like to say something on that.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't 40 years ago, it was 20 years ago.
Sorry.
At the time, I wasn't thinking about anything. I was just looking to get out. I wasn't looking to contact probation or nothing like that. I was just looking to get out and see my friends. But as far as you were saying, what I know now, like you were saying, it probably would help if they knew I was getting out and somebody would be there I guess, to help that person to move along in their transition and say, this is, like you said, here's your probation officer or parole officer, or this is, listings of resources that'll help you, like, different places you can go. And because when you get out, you're just basically on your own, you got to go find your own way. And, you're running around, especially if you got no car, or, at the time, it's kind of hard for family members to help you because they don't want to help you because they know who you are. And, they would say, I ain't got time for that. Something to boost them along, to help you, to make you feel better, to help let you know somebody's out there to help you, to move, to get you going, point in the right direction. Then it'll make you feel better too, like somebody does care about you, cares about you a lot to help you, instead of just not having nobody there and just, I don't know, something like that's what I would think.
Okay. What about you, Yvonne?
Well, when I got out, this probation, having a probation when you're at the halfway was all new to me. Because like I said, I've been incarcerated before, and they didn't have that. So I was like surprised, and I didn't know anything, but when I did get to know Keith, and but it's true, like he said, that they just put you out. I mean, you go out and you have to find your own job, and which I've been back and forth in, and so I know Tucson, so I knew how to get around on the bus. But for myself, I got a job, but I got fired, and I guess at that time I kind of like was scared, and I didn't tell anybody I got fired. I just went right back to the halfway house. But when it happened, I wanted to leave. I was thinking of just walking off and not. But then something kept telling me to just keep going. So every time I got to the bus stop, the bus was there. So I just get on and go. Went to the next bus stop because it took me 3 buses to get to my job. But the third one, I had to wait. But I ran into this lady that I just met off the street, and she was talking to me, and we talked for a while, and she was just, she comforted me, I have to say. She was a homeless lady. And so we talked, and then the bus came, and I got on, and I didn't know what to do. But I went back to the halfway house. I didn't say nothing to nobody. They were asking me why I was back. I just told them, they just told me to come home. So I came. I mean, that wasn't my home, but it was my home at the time. I said, so I just came back. But later on that day, I had to go make a money order. And it just happened that Keith called. So I started telling him about what happened, the situation. And I cried to him, and because I was all scared, because I thought, they were going to send me back, and I didn't know what was going to happen. But, he assured me that, that wasn't going to happen, that, that I would just have to go look for another job. And I did. Finally, they found out that I got fired, and they talked to me, and they asked me what happened. So they just sent me back out to look for another job. And it is kind of hard. I mean, like he said, it's hard, but, really, if you want a job, you have to go out there and get it and do the footwork and whatever. I mean, I did a lot of walking around, asking, putting applications here and there. But in the end, I have to say that it did pay off. But, a lot of things, another thing I would really like for reentry things is that I think you should have more things options for people to do. Like they have, these people that came, it's called GARP that I got into. They came and they did a presentation at the halfway house, and I wanted to get in that program so bad because it was like how it was to help you get into something, and I ended up getting into they helped me get into a 10-week culinary class. But at the time when I was at the halfway house, I was really having a hard time. Me and the social worker, we were bumping heads because he wanted me to get a job. And I wanted to get into this program because, you know, a lot of us that come from the reservation, we really don't have no training, no working, no skills or something, or we didn't finish school or a job. We just, you know, lived there. I mean, and that's where everything, like the drugs and everything happens. So you get into all this other stuff. But I felt that this program, when this opportunity with this program, that I really wanted to get into it because they had this culinary and a mechanic at the time they had a mechanic class, but they don't have that. But I got into the culinary, and they helped me get a job. So but I was getting out of the halfway house, I ended up going to the culinary class, and that's how I got my job that I have today. So I have to say that, you know, if they had more people to come in and talk to the halfway house people that were there to help, you know, tell them, you know, that they could help them, show them and guide them somewhere. Because really, when you come from, I mean, for myself, I didn't know where to turn to, but I had, like I said, I had a good support system, and the lady that was my counselor there, I would go to her and talk to her, and she would tell me where to go to. So that was kind of the scary part, is that if you don't know how to live in the city, it's like a whole different thing. It's like you're just put out there. But if you know your way around and everything, you're okay. I mean, but it was hard. But I mean, I have to say I'm thankful for phones, because that's how I would use my GPS all the time to find different places to go to, because I didn't know how to get there. But that's what was scary for me. I mean, I'll tell you that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you know, just from hearing up to this point, and I want to get the input from those that are in on this webinar with us, and get your input as well. What I'm hearing so far is, one of the things that I would think is that when you talked about, you know, your family as being a real support system for you when you first got out, that was really important. I'm wondering, as I'm putting this out to everyone that's in on this call, why, you know, what happens when we're not able to have reentrants return to their community? Because we know in some areas that's not always possible for whatever reason. And it seems like for both of you that you were able to, in some way, either be close enough where your family was able to interact with you at some point that they became an accessible support system for you. But for some, that's not usually the case. So it's a more gradual process for people, especially that are on reservations or on you know, in places that when they're mandated through supervision, that supervision isn't always available for them in their own communities. And then the other thing is the cultural piece of, you know, that maybe the training for cultural training that we need to probably provide for all people, all service workers, both that are providing the services, but also that are that interact at all stages of a reentrance experience. Because just kind of what Yvonne said, that, you know, when you were, Yvonne, when you were talking about saying, you know, you really wanted this training for being in the culinary arts because you realize that, yeah, I know I need a job, but I also need I need skills training. And I think that's what Arvin was talking about also. He said, you know, I know that if I can get a skill or a trade, that's going to serve me a lot better than something short term. And so in your mind or in your thinking, that was what you were trying to plan for. And sometimes when you're thinking about your way of life, of where you're going to go back to your community or how you're going to help your family or your community, that's part of that cultural piece that sometimes that doesn't quite translate to someone that doesn't understand your way of life when you do go home to your own community, because a lot of that ties back into how am I going to help my family when I go home, or how am I going to be able to be productive in my own place of where I live, because jobs there are going to be very scarce, or I've got to make it in a different way to help myself and help my family and pay back to my community. And then the other thing that I thought of was that Yvonne just kind of brought this to my attention, saying sometimes we don't always think outside the box as service providers. And I don't know how many of you out there have ever thought of taking your services to a halfway house and saying, you know, we always invite people to come into our offices to provide them these services. But how many of you have ever said, okay, let's take our, you know, our show on the road, so to speak, and say, partner with the halfway house and say, can we come into your facility maybe once a week or once a month or something, and do some training about our services. What do we do? Whether it's, you know, how to write a resume, or how to, you know, do an interview, or you know, anything, whatever it is you're doing, or how to, you know, get on a bus, how to read a, you know, how to read a map, whatever that is, or how to fill out a job application. I know that somebody talked here about, you know, how to talk about your getting your license restored, those kinds of things. And how many of us are doing that? So that may be another way to kind of think outside the box, so to speak, about how we can motivate or mobilize our own services in a different way as well. So I just kind of want to maybe get some discussion going from that end. What do you guys think? I don't know if any of you are doing that already, because I know that, and I guess Bureau of Prisons does have a a, um, a program that they do put their do have, where they their inmates go through as they get ready for release, to help them, you know, kind of prepare them, saying, you know, as you're getting ready to be released back into a community, these are some of the things that you're going to have to start getting ready for, you know, being back in the real world. And that can, you know, go from, you know, just basic, how do you, you know, get a job? How can you, who do you report to, and all those kinds of things. What does probation actually mean? How often do you have to report in for supervision? Those kinds of things. And I guess sometimes some programs don't have that, and apparently Yvonne and Arvin didn't have something like that. And so I don't know how many of you have those sorts of programs.
Well, for Ute Mountain, we're kind of in a difficult situation, or difficult, for our reentry, just because we have federal, and then rarely do we have any state clients. But for the federal side, it's just kind of all the halfway houses are in Denver, Colorado. So we're like 8 hours south of Denver. So it's kind of difficult to get there. And, I think we're still at a point where, we're still trying to develop that relationship with the U.S. probation, located in Durango. So, it's kind of difficult to bring that relationship together as of right now. So, that's where Ute Mountain kind of stands right now.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good point, Cedric, because some of these services, like you're talking about, like halfway houses, is very, very rare in the on the reservation, and they're usually off reservation, and it depends on how close to the border you are, or even at that, if you're to a major metropolitan area, like you said, into Denver or Albuquerque or Phoenix and so forth, depending on what reservation you are located in. So, and I've got a good response back from Patricia that she's talking about tribal victim advocacy, that they have funds, because she brought up a very good point that most of the times that people that are incarcerated have also been victims of abuse in some way. And so they have usually some sort of funds available in terms of having them be able to help them in terms of rent and deposits, or cell phones and so forth, clothing and things like that, to help them get back into the community and back on their feet as well. So those are other resources that sometimes get overlooked as people also think about different resources that somebody may be eligible for. So, and that is very true, that most of people that are incarcerated will have a background of abuse in some way as well. So, what are some of the other things that I think one of the other questions that came up is what are one of the things that you think that would have been if you were to change one thing about how it is that the programs that you had access to, or if there was one thing that you could have changed about anything that you went through, what would that have been? Whether that was a program that you were involved with, or that the way that something that you went through, or if there was one thing that you could change, what would that be? And this is for either Arvin or Yvonne. Did you understand that? Anything that, that would have been maybe that was really frustrating for you as you were going through that reentry process, something that was just so hard that if you were to try to change that, what would that have been? Whether that was something that if you were to go back and and say, you know, this didn't have to be this frustrating. If I could have changed it, this would be the way that I would change it to make it better for somebody else that has to go through this. What would have that been?
Um, I guess on my part, I guess I could have looked for resources. I could have been more outspoken about it. You know, I could have went looking, but I wasn't doing that. I was just kind of basically just doing it, doing what I had to do. Um, I wasn't really looking for resources or help. I was just doing, what I was told to do. But um, I don't know. It's kind of hard back then. It was a little different back then than nowadays. And um, there's more stuff out there now than it was 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Did they have reentry services when you first came out, Arvin? Did they have things?
Well, when I was incarcerated at the end of my sentence, I was, I was in a medium max, and so I was mandatory that I do a 90-day pre-release program, and they were offering like little courses in there, and one of the courses that was offered is what you were talking about, how to write a resume, how to, basic stuff, how to write checks, how to, fill out job applications. The things you were talking about is what they had there, and that's what I took in there just to, pass time, I guess I would say. But that was the only thing I took before I got out of there. And I didn't take anything else after that when I got out. So that's basically what I did.
Yeah, because that was one of the other questions that came up is that the program was probably very different when you were released. That if there was even such a program for you, that would have been much different. And so when you talked about making it different, something different, it wasn't so much that making it different was making the something outside of you different, but making your attitude a little bit different about saying that you wish you had reached out a little bit more and asked for help and reached out more to get some resources rather than trying to do it on your own, is what I heard. What about for you, Yvonne?
Yes, they have some of those. They have release programs, but ours was like on the same thing, job for a job and interviews. But they have people that will come in from the outside to do the interviews, and also the finances, and there was one I took. It had to do how to budget your money. And I have to say that that was very interesting for me because I've never really thought looked at money like that. But I mean, to me, money, I guess, because one of the things I was doing, it was just fast cash. But this was really interesting, and I really liked it. Like right now, I learned and I kind of know how to use my money now. And I try to, because I learned that. But I think it will be more if they have more things that would, really like get you ready when you're coming out here. I mean, I guess where to go to look for resource. I guess that's kind of the thing I think people would need. But you had a question. I wanted to answer this question you were talking about when you said somebody was asking, where do you go when you can't go back to the reservation?
Mm-hmm.
My thing, I live like 52 miles from my reservation, but I couldn't go home to see my family right away, but they had the Indian Center. I don't know if they have Indian centers all over, but that's where I used to go, and I met people there. But to me, I feel like, I mean, I don't really know about anybody here in the city, but I got involved, like I told you, I got into AA meetings and these different meetings and programs, and I think that's where you get when you get into these programs, that they do help you, and it helps. I mean, you learn to like these people, whoever you meet, and they help you through the programs and everything, because that's what happened for me. I mean, I wish I could be with my family, but being here in Tucson, I've learned to get along with different people here, and I met people, and there's some nice people out here. I mean, that I never thought I would want to meet, but I meet them and I talk to them. I mean, it's just like anything else. I think you just have to give people a chance, but you also have to just be careful too, because you don't want to go back to the same. And I guess me, I don't get involved with anybody. If somebody talks to me, I talk to them, but I don't just get involved with whatever they're doing. I just answer them and walk off, because there's still people that do bad things. But there's places you can go and look for different things where you can meet different people to help you, and they become kind of your family after that. I mean, but that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think that both of you have been so wonderful in sharing your stories. And I know that we just touched a small piece of what we had hoped to cover today. And unfortunately, we're winding down to the last few minutes of our webinar today. But I'd like to kind of go back and just kind of wrap up and allow Cedric and Keith to kind of give some final thoughts to our discussion today, and then I'll have some final words, and then we'll sadly bring this to a close. And Keith or Cedric, do you have any final thoughts to share?
Absolutely.
Sure, this is Keith.
Go ahead, Keith.
This is Keith. Thanks. Yeah, Nan, thank you for the invite to this. It's really great to hear people's experiences around the country, especially in reentry efforts. I thought you made a really good point for the discussion too about bringing services to the halfway houses. We're fortunate here in Tucson that our halfway house, they do bring in good services for the people. With the pandemic, that has created that additional barrier where, they have to keep it locked down so those people can't come in. But we've kind of been working with technology, recently with the Reentry Team. We've been able to use Skype to test out, a skill group, which was pretty effective. And we're hoping, we can continue to overcome that. But, hearing the other panelists and everybody else's experiences, this has just been incredible and really appreciate it.
Thank you for that, Keith. Cedric, did you have anything else to say?
Yes. Again, Nan, thank you for inviting us to be on the panel here. Thank you to the two panelists that shared their life experiences, incarceration to reentry. For us here at the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe, we will continue to think out of the box, I guess, just because we're real rural, and, everything the panelists talked about, we are addressing those in our reentry program here, really heavily relying on our culture, our sweat lodge, to understanding who you are as a person, So that's, our reentry is kind of based around that. So, but again, we just want to thank you, Nan, and the panelists.
Yeah, and with that, did Yvonne or Arvin have any last words you want to share? I'm just looking at some of the comments, and people are just very thankful for both of your stories and everything that you've shared with them today. I hope you're able to see some of that as they're coming in. Did you, either of you, want any last words to share with us?
I'd just like to say thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. And I'd like to say to Yvonne, keep your head up, stay strong, stay focused, and things will only get better for you. Thank you.
Yvonne, did you have anything else to say?
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me, and I really enjoyed this, and I hope that there more things can happen for the halfway house for people that are reentering, and I just want to say to people that come in that I know a lot of times we think that there's nothing for us, but there is something, but we have to seek for it all the time. That's all we have to do, and just figure out what we want to do in life, because there's more to life than what we were doing before. And I just want to thank the other panel. Thank you, and for his words, and the same thing, that he just keeps a positive, and just know that that we can both make it in this world. There's more. We have to look for our new generation, teach them a better way of life, and not to go down the same road we went, but try to make things better for our people, and so we could have a better life out wherever we're at. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for everybody in this room with us today, and I really appreciate all the comments that we got and all your participation. Thank you for our panelists, and thank you for both Keith and Cedric for helping me put this together, and your comments and your hard work, and providing some guidance to me as we put this all together. Also like to thank my colleagues, both Pam and Travis in the background, that have been helping with the putting all this together in the background, putting things together, and helping with the technical end of everything. They've been my staunch providers of support in every way. Also, thank you for all of you as you've provided a lot of insight and by your comments. And make sure that you do the handouts that are provided. And I'd really would encourage you to join APPA, not just to push that, but as a way to provide you a venue to do some of the continued discussion that we kind of started here in this chat room. That we have a place for you to do that in a place that we call APA Connect through talking circles. And I think that would be a great place to continue some of these discussions that we've started here, to share resources and to talk about some of these things. I know we didn't get much time to talk about fees and fines, which is a very important piece of this, of how sometimes that we get caught up in how those are impacting people that are released, but then they're being asked to pay these fines and fees, and they get caught up in that circle of the merry-go-round of how they get taken advantage of again. And so those types of discussions are really important. And some of the things that you are able to share with each other and resources is amazing, as what we've read. And so Please take the time to get to know one another and keep reaching out to one another. And I will, and then please come back again tomorrow. We will have the same type of webinar that will be focused on the Alaska counterpart to this panel. And so if you have not already done so, please continue to register for that webinar tomorrow. And thank you again all for joining us. Okay. And be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nan.
Thank you, Cedric. Thank you, Scott.